It is a special episode today. I'm super excited to have my guest on the show today, Carwells. And for those that are, for those of you guys that have been in short-term rentals for a period of time, Sarah and Emily were at the forefront of talking about their journey on for Airbnbs on Instagram, and they were inspiration for Liz and I's podcast and our journey as well on social media and building our business. So we were on their podcast when we first started, and I'm super excited for them today. Emily, Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
I am as well. So why don't I give you guys a few minutes to introduce yourself? Emily, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I'm Emily, the car in the Carwells. That's where our name comes from. It is our two last names put together. So to give you guys a little bit of background of how Sarah and I got started, back in 2019, I was graduating from grad school and I couldn't get a job. And so COVID hit right afterwards, as we all know, and that was kind of the kickoff to us getting into short-term rentals. So my degree is in retailing and consumer science and global retailing, and I didn't use that for a long time. I'm using it now. Spoiler alert, we might talk about that later. But um, yeah, so I was like, Sarah, what are we going to do? And we started designing for other hosts at that point in time. Um, and it was just going to be kind of a hobby thing for us. I think it was just like, hey, we can make a little bit of money and pay our bills through COVID. And then we found out that we really like working together. Being best friends for 20 plus years now, I was like, this is maybe a bad idea. But um, we kind of kicked off designing for other hosts, and our journey has evolved a lot over the years. Sarah can talk about a little bit of her side of it, but after doing that for a year and working with some other people in the industry, I have now invested in a property on my own. I run the back end of Carwells exclusively, and we launched a retail business. So that's my business side, but I'm also a mom who runs all of these businesses as well. So my life is pretty chaotic. And I've got other projects going on too, but I'll let Sarah intro herself and we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So I'm Sarah, the other half of the Carwells, the well in the Carwells. My last name's Glidewell. And yeah, Emily and I think it was a really natural progression to think about starting a business together because we had been partners in so many capacities before. You know, we were best friends, teammates, roommates, moved across the country together. And so we had just already been through a lot of big changes, you know, that are stressful and chaotic. And we just really connected well in all of those scenarios. And so starting a business together felt big and scary, but you know, it was a really great partnership because we're polar opposites. And so we kind of make up for what the other lacks. But yeah, we got into short term rentals in 2019. Like Emily said, we really fell into it. And we started designing for other investors. And over the years, like Emily said, we've just evolved. We've, you know, designed B&Bs, we've invested in our own B&Bs, we've done arbitrage, we've purchased properties, we've raised capital, we've taught other people through our mentorship how to do what we do. And now we do retreats and short-term rental specific products as well. And so we've just kind of touched every corner of this industry, but the industry as a whole has just sparked a lot of passion in us that we didn't know we had previous to COVID happening. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
happy story, but we love being involved in this industry in general.
Yeah, and the industry is lucky to have you guys, and I think that's the really cool part, and that's what we want to talk about in today's episode is the journey, right? You've done a lot of different things within short-term rentals, right? Started designing, arbitrage, and then kind of where you are. And I wanted to highlight that as in, this is an industry really that has a lot of optionality, right? Like you get started, you learn, it's still growing, it's still very young. There's no Bible of short-term rentals, no matter who is like trying to convince you of that. Like it continues to change and evolve, and it really attracts this very kind of unique set of people. Like I come from finance, never thought I would do Airbnbs. Your background, Sarah, your background, Emily, and many others, like our buddy Jeremy, who Jeremy Warren, who lives in New York, who I became friends with through looking at a property together in San Antonio. I put it on TikTok, and then he called me afterwards and asked to talk. And then he worked with you guys and introduced me to you guys. So just to highlight, like, there's so many different types of people in this industry, and I think that's the kind of cool part is we all come from different backgrounds and we bring our own little flair to this. And if you're interested in short-term rentals, like it's still early. You can still kind of make your mark in the industry in the way that you want, whether it's property or the way you operate your business or your online presence, whatever that is. And I think when Sarah and Emily are really the a great case study of that. Before we kind of go in there, and then I want to ask a question. You guys are best friends, 20 years, people are starting a business together. I started this business with my wife. We knew each other for a few years, and now we have kids, and it's crazy kind of to mix business with pleasure. So I'm going to ask this question. So Emily, I'll start with, what's something about Sarah not a lot of people know, but gave you a lot of confidence that she would be a good business partner? I know, like, I didn't prep you for this, but I just thought of it when you were talking. Something that not a lot of people know, but
gosh.
was like, okay, this is like, I know I can, and Sarah and I will figure this out.
Yeah, that's hard because Sarah doesn't keep anything a secret online even. So people pretty much what you see online is what Sarah is. So that is hard. I think maybe one thing that she doesn't talk about or brag about really is her loyalty as a friend. So and I think that's like a trait that both of us are really proud of, and especially in our friendship. And so I think starting a business with her, I just knew that she was always going to put my best interest ahead of everything else. And so we have this philosophy between the two of us that we would rather see our business go up in flames than our friendship. And I think that we've just like held to that over the years. So although it's not like a secret she's hiding, people just like maybe don't know how loyal she is. So I think that that's probably it.
That's a great answer. And that genuineness definitely comes through. I think that's why you guys resonate with so many people. Um, Sarah, same question.
Yeah. Emily stole my first answer. I was gonna say loyalty as well, but I think one thing that maybe a lot of people don't know about Emily that I see a ton of value in Emily is the organization and crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and being super realistic about the outcome. I know that, I am just blinded by optimism over and over again in my life. Like, I can just see the best case scenario without any effort at all. And it's really hard for me to see the worst case scenario. And so to have a best friend that doesn't just like put gasoline on the fire and just accelerate without, assessing the risk of things, and instead having a best friend that's very, wait a minute, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and these are all the things that we need to do to mitigate that risk. That has been a secret weapon for me with Emily time and time again. And that's something that I need someone in my corner that's kind of whispering those things in my ear to bring me back down to reality when I'm ready to just like launch something new without being able to see the
Yeah,
negatives.
that's great. I mean, it just sounds like there's this trusted relationship between you guys, right? Where you value the relationship over the dollars and cents. And I think like a lot to be, kind of be married, being in a committed and being in a committed relationship, whether you call it a marriage or partnership, where someone that you trust that will put your best interests in mind, right? And that's great with me and Liz. There's no operating, there's no see. It's like, look, I mean, everything we do, we're gonna do together. The successes, the failures, we don't need to divide it, right? It's both of ours. And then trust the counsel where you can really believe. You can one just share your problems and be very transparent and good advice and listen to that advice. I think that's really core to a trust relationship. So that's really great to hear you guys have that have a relationship together. And I'm sure that's been a foundational part of your success. And
Yeah.
to that success, like kind of question to whoever wants this question, maybe just give us a quick overview of 2019. You're starting to design. COVID hit. Design. I know you started arbitrage in Texas, and maybe just give us a 2-minute summary of what you've done and what you're working on now.
Yeah, I can take this one and try and run through it as fast as possible. But in 2019, When COVID hit, really right at the beginning of 2020, I had a few arbitrage properties that Emily had helped me install, and Emily was, her full intent was to get a job with her degree after just graduating, and we enjoyed that process together, but it was never formalized. We weren't anticipating growing it into anything. And when 2020 hit and Emily couldn't get a job and I had to figure out how to pay for these rents that were, the apartments were really much more vacant than they were pre-COVID hitting. We just started designing. We started offering interior design services for investors for about a year and a half. And so we would, work for dirt cheap in exchange for those investors to kind of fill us with the knowledge that they had, and just kind of introduce us into the industry. We didn't know that there was any formal mentorships at the time or anyone who was really willing to teach us, and you couldn't get a degree in it. And so we were working for pennies with intent to kind of learn the ins and outs of this industry. In 2021, we decided to kind of set that aside because we really wanted to be the investor. Like, we didn't want to stay in the interior designer role. And so we spent 2021 partnered with a fund, learning how to raise capital, learning how to market services, learning how to, really analyze deals in any market, any property, anytime. And just got, the education that we were looking for. But at the end of the day, working for that fund, it wasn't really building our own brand. It wasn't building our own portfolio of properties. And so we were a part of that until it just didn't make sense to be a part of that anymore. And so at the end of 2022, I believe, we stepped away from that fund, and we started investing. At that point, I had one property, working on my second, and we had started having investors reach out, and we started having, money coming in from other people that we weren't anticipating coming in. And so we really realized at that point in time that it was time for us to jump off and kind of do our own thing. And so in 2022, or I guess beginning of 2023, we launched our own mentorship to educate other people on the education that we had received over the last 3 years. And we started raising private capital for properties that we wanted to move forward on ourselves and continue investing in our own projects. So since 2023 till now, we have been consistently educating other people on how to do what we do. We've been consistently using other people's money to fund these Airbnb deals, and then we've consistently been reinvesting our own money into our own B&Bs, all while also growing the Carwells brand and starting to dabble in e-commerce, because Emily is super passionate about that, and we want to make sure that this is something that is, fueling our passions alongside fueling our the financial side of our business as well. So we've, kind of been in this boat for the last year and a half and have been feeling confident that this is kind of the lane we want to stay in.
That's cool. Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. But I want to start with the passion part.
Yeah.
The e-com, maybe Emily, the e-com part is your passion. Like, was this always kind of part of the plan? It's like, okay, we're doing the design stuff and then the education stuff, but like eventually I want to create a brand product. Maybe just walk us through that, because it's 4 years. Like, how do you keep yourself engaged throughout this process?
Yeah. So, full transparency, when we first started design, Sarah was like, hey, we're going to have to like put the e-commerce stuff on pause for a little while we like grow everything else. And I was like, cool. Yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm getting my creative itch scratched with designing, right? So I was like, okay, let's kind of put that on pause. And we've dabbled in like talking about products that we wanted to do over the years. And a lot of the times it comes from like, we'll be shopping for something that we're designing our own short-term rental. And I'm like, oh, it'd be really nice if I had that thing. And I was like, oh, that's missing from our property. And so I've always wanted to launch it. It just was a matter of being able to fund it, because e-commerce is not cheap by any means, and then
Yeah.
having the time to do it. So I decided to do that after I had a baby, which maybe I don't actually have the time to do it, but yeah, over the last year,
At
Sarah
3
and I.
a.m. You're free.
Yeah,
Free.
exactly. But over the last year, Sarah and I have been really intentional about outsourcing things that are not in our genius zone. So we have like people taking care of our emails, we have a VA, we have people doing sales calls for us. So there is so much more time for us to focus on the things that we really truly love. And I wish that we could have done that from the beginning, but we all know as entrepreneurs, you bootstrap it at the beginning. And then once you get a few
Yep.
years in, you get to kind of start thinking of the fun stuff. And so, um, yeah, last year we decided to officially launch our first product, which is conversation cards. It's called First Night Energy, and there's a whole story behind that name. But we're hoping to expand to home decor for sure, because we just love the idea of being able to place things that are realistic for short term rentals. Because if you've designed one, you know that not all furniture or decor makes sense in one, but also dabbling in my true passion, which is fashion. So we would love to do some sort of like clothes, whether that's like partnering with other brands in the industry or just launching our own line of merch or clothing or anything like that. But I get to kind of dive back into my degrees, use those papers that have been gathering dust in my closet for the past 5 years, and kind of get to play in that. So I'm still interested in real estate. I think the past 5 years have taught me that like long-term wealth comes from investing in real estate. And so when I think about my son's future, that's the kind of thing that I want to be in, and I
Yeah.
fell in love with it. But I get to do my passion now, which is really exciting.
Uh, I, I got to get a set of cards for our Catskills property. That's really no, it's really cool, and that's great that you're able to. And kind of the point of is, you know, you start off this journey and you had a passion. It had to kind of put on pause for a little bit, but you're able to come back to it. Is the opportunities that the short-term rental space is able to kind of show you, right? Where you have the network and the reach now that the business is much more viable now than it was in 2020, right? I think that's like pretty
Yeah,
it's pretty clear. The distribution
absolutely.
is the hardest part. You have that now, and building a brand. And that's the power of building a brand. You have all this optionality now where people believe in you, trust in you, you're authentic, you're genuine, and you know maybe conversation cards, like for me, it wasn't like that wasn't an item that I want. It wasn't that like I would have put in my Airbnb, but I know you guys. I like you guys. I'm sure it's a good product, so yeah, why not? Like it'll be cool to have people try something to do that.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I love that story because again, like I think people are so myopic sometimes. Like, oh, I come in like this is gonna be a grind. I gotta do this the rest of my life. But no, it's like you build something, it cash flows for you to the level that you want. You don't have to move the goalpost. Like you get 5 minutes, like you get 10, 20, 5 might be just the perfect number for you. And then that's the base for you to do something else in life. Have children, start an ecom business. Sarah, segue to you, your travel. Like I want to hit, and I want to hit on capital you raised, the properties, but I think the personal journey here is, and we always the money part, right? It's like that's good and important, but fundamentally, to me at least, it's a means to an end. Like I'm not trying to chase the money to look at my bank account like, oh, cool, I have more money here. It's like, oh no, I get to play tennis in the morning. I got to play 2 hours of tennis this morning because that's what I wanted to do today. I didn't want to sit in front of a computer. It was nice today. Anyways, um, Sarah, like your passion, like tell us about how this has led to like what you truly enjoy and love. Because I know you love traveling, and I see all the cool places that you get to go to.
Yeah. I feel like that at the core, my passion in this is both design and travel. And I feel like Airbnb just, it's like one of those things where it was right place, right time, like kind of destiny, or fate, I suppose. But I've always been super passionate. Even as a kid, my parents would take us on spring break, and Emily and I would go to spring break together in whatever resort we would go to. I remember always saying to my mom, like, "Oh my gosh, I just want to work in the hospitality industry. Like, I just want to design these spaces and experience these spaces." And so I just feel like Airbnb scratches every itch that it possibly could for me. And so I feel like in the last 5 years, my focus has been like, how do I get to spend as much time doing the specific portions of this industry that I possibly can? Because as all of us know, it's like this industry includes everything that's included in a business. It's not just design, it's not just finances, it's not just operations, it's all of it. And at the beginning, you are bootstrapping it and you're carrying all of those roles, and you learn that, 20% of those roles you enjoy and the other 80% you want to let go of. And so
That's
now
being very generous.
it's being very generous. But now we're just at a place 5 years in where we've gotten to be intentional about outsourcing the things that we're not absolutely excellent at. And so I just want to spend as much time as possible these days getting to build really cool experiences, whether that's remodeling an existing property or starting from the ground up, and then experiencing other people's properties. And that's why you see me travel blogging online. So from a tax perspective, they know that it's, something that's a business that's producing some income, even if it's not a ton of income. And then obviously the properties are a big focus on socials as well. So if I could spend 100% of my time traveling to cool B&Bs and creating cool B&Bs, then I'm a happy girl.
You said it a lot in your stories, and it was like Sarah is all like she wants to be on the road. No, that's really cool. And then yeah, you get to do what you enjoy. No, that's awesome. I love it. Awesome. Um, actually, as you guys are talking about this, and Sarah, you're going through your history. I remember when I first met you guys in person. We were in Nashville for the STR Wealth Conference with Bill Faith and Mike Schroeder. And I remember I walked into we were in the lobby. I think I forget the name of the hotel. You guys were staying there, and we met in the bar. And then Jeremy, kind of everyone introduced each other. And I was struck actually that like y'all knew each other, and it was through the fund you guys worked out. It was like Maddie was there, Skylar. There were some other people too. Bianchi was there, and I was like, "Well, how do you guys know each other?" And it was like, "Oh no, we all used to work at the fund together." It's like, "Oh, it's interesting."
Yeah.
So maybe just talk a little bit about the network, right? And I think it dovetails into like the education and building a community or finding a community around this space and how powerful that is. Because I was really reminded of that, like when you were saying, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember us sitting there and." I remember having like a long conversation with Skylar and Maddie about like, structure management and like all this stuff. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then you guys all knew each other. I was like, oh, I didn't even know you guys all knew each other. Maybe we could just talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. The community side of this business is, and probably any business, right? But it's a cheat code. I mean, it is such an unlock for so many reasons, and it's hard to gauge the power of community until you experience it over and over and over again, where every single roadblock that we hit, where do we find the information on how to solve it? And every single time it's someone that we know in our network who's already gone through the thing, who's already made the mistakes, who can now make it a ton easier for us to kind of navigate those difficult situations. And so, we just started on social media sharing our journey because we, grew up as MySpace turned to Facebook, turned to Instagram kids. And so it was just natural for us to show that story online. And we just didn't have any other intent with it other than, we like to be on Instagram. We like social media. And it's just turned into something so much more where every single thing that we do now is positively impacted by us building out loud online and being really intentional about networking in the space.
Yeah.
And so Emily and I have just had roadblock after roadblock removed by having a really solid network of people underneath of us.
Yeah.
It's huge. I can't. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention that our network started all the way back from when we were designing. I mean, just last year when we were in Nashville, we ran into Mike at the little gathering that you had at the Hotel One, and he was one of our first ever design clients. And we met
Really?
him when we were designing. We got introduced to Fede when we were designing, and then we got introduced to Jeremy when we were designing. Jeremy introduced us to you. And so all the way back from when we were designing, our network has started, and we've been able to benefit from it, and then we've been able to give that education to other people as well. So I think it's just been life changing for everybody. And there's just like no way we could get to where we are today. Sarah and I always say this all the time, there's really like nothing special about us. We're just two small town girls, and we just like figured it out, but our network has been a huge part of that.
You guys are you guys are special because there are a lot of small town people, boys and girls, that like never get out, and it takes bravery and it takes resolve and it takes resilience to put yourself open like that online. And then when you started, I'm sure it was like two people that were watching you. It was like your boyfriend and husband and like your parents just like, oh, what you guys are crazy, what are you doing this? Like no one cares, no one wants to know, you're sharing too much, it's embarrassing. And then it takes perseverance to do hard things, and you cross the chasm to do that. So I just agree with you there. It is a special thing to do. It really is. They would do the same thing. It's hard to speak to a camera when there's no one's looking at, no one's listening to you. You're like, what the heck am I doing? But it really highlights the power of use the word a lot, intentional. I think that's a really key point. Just be intentional about like what you're doing. If you're really interested in real estate, short-term rentals, really any business, any venture, right? Like have a goal of what you want to do, and like people along the way that have done that or are doing it or are doing it, it'll just make it so much more fun and enjoyable, and you're gonna be better at. And you just never know where the path leads. Like the How I Met Jeremy. I don't know if I probably shared it with you guys. I was in San Antonio. I was in Austin for a conference, and my wife and I drove down to San Antonio to look at a property, and then we were just like walking through a property, and we're like, oh, okay, this is what we see, this is what we like, what we don't like. And then Jeremy, who's like, oh, I saw that. And it's like, that's how I would look at a property. So then like, he messaged me. He's like, oh, hey, can I talk to you? I was like, sure. But, you might be someone random. I don't really want to talk to you. But anyways, it was like a traffic jam on the way from Austin to San Antonio. So I was sitting in traffic. I was like, he lives in New York. What's the harm? I'm going to call and then talk for like an hour and a half. And then, yeah, like, going to his wedding, and I met his girlfriend or his fiance. All this, it's just like all these little things that come from being intentional and sharing. So if you're listening to this and maybe like when I get started, I don't know where to begin. Like check out the car walls, just like find a community that resonates with you, and like continue to it and learn from it, because it will pay itself in spades. That like things in ways that you don't know and you can't imagine, but try that. And to that point, like, would you have guessed, in 2020, like you've raised X million dollars in capital and bought this many properties? So, segue there, like, tell us tell us all the money you're making, Sarah and Emily. How much money, the money you're making for all your investments, all you just like, let's start with, how many deals have you guys raised for? How much money have you raised, and how many properties?
Yeah, great question. I mean, wow, a running tally on how much money we've raised.
So much. So much. You're running out of fingers.
Right. I mean, it is, especially growing up as two small town girls, like no one that we were around had a ton of money, it just wasn't something that we were exposed to. It's like both of my parents were teachers, and I was in the upper middle class of our small town with teachers as parents. So you can imagine, like, we just didn't have the perception that that kind of wealth was out there and available to us. And so it really took us understanding why wealthy people were attracted to short-term rentals, what the tax benefits looked like, how to pitch a deal, all of those skills that have to come alongside being able to put together a great short-term rental. And I just think that, our portfolio of properties, we outperform all of our competition in every market we're in because we prioritize design and hospitality. And so showing that off online, people always ask, like, how do you find investors? It's like, we didn't find investors, investors found us. And I think the trick there is just being transparent about your journey, because it allows other people to see what you're doing and build trust with you. And you don't even realize that you're building trust with them because you're just showing it off online and you don't understand really who's consuming that content. But over the last 2 years specifically, since I've been raising capital for properties, I think now officially, as of yesterday, I think I'm officially over $5.5 million raised in private capital over
equity capital. Equity capital. Let's be clear. This is equity capital. This is capital. Equity. Congratulations. That is a great accomplishment. $5.5 million.
Yeah. And it's so much easier to purchase properties in cash than when we're financing properties, which has been great.
How many properties have you? How many projects? How many properties?
I think we've got 5 in New York and then 4 in Michigan that are investor funded.
Got it. So 9, $5.5 million. So yeah, about $500,000 checks each. Okay, that's great. And then the design. I mean, you guys really do. And on, I think not design. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. I don't think it's just design. Actually, I think it's more holistic than that, because there are plenty of great designers on there. I think what you guys do very well is you're able to kind of see. You're able to visualize the wrong word. Okay, I'm gonna use that word. You're gonna just visualize the project and like the people that you can get there, and you have enough data there. As your last project that we were interested in investing. We were interested in investing and maybe you'll save them for us next time, Sarah. That where it looks overlooks the lake or has the pool inside. Like now that I know, it's like I see it's like okay, I know exactly why they bought it because like the underground pool and it has the view. Like the design part is important, but like your eye on the actual property and then the price for it, your team that you've built that has a construction management background to be able to execute that vision that you guys have put together, and then the operational chops through your network and your team as well that they're able to operate at a high level, right? I think that is where you guys I think really over index. And I don't give this compliment to anyone actually, and I'll pay this compliment to you guys. I actually went through your underwriting and I went through, and I usually every underwrite I get is just complete garbage because it's like it's all BS numbers. I found like one little thing in your model. I was like, okay, they probably could have added this in there, but it might have been a different line item. So maybe they were just double counting. But like, it actually was a true underwrite. It actually was a real underwrite. I was like shocked. I was like, wow, this is actually like a real number. This isn't some BS fluff number that I usually see. So, congrats on that because like I'm pretty hard on those models. Like I've never seen a model that I didn't just rip apart besides your guys's. So, um, nice work on that and transparent with the numbers versus like giving numbers that I don't think I don't think
Yeah.
are realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that because we preface every conversation with every investor that, like, on paper, ours likely are not going to look the sexiest because we try and be super conservative, we underpromise and overdeliver, and so they really have to trust that we know what we're doing and trust that we are being super honest and that other people's underwriting is not including a lot of the numbers that need to be included in there. And I mean, I just don't
Yeah.
ever want to be on the back end of a deal where all of a sudden they're like, wait, these expenses are double what you projected. Like, I want, people, I want to be putting a smile on investors' faces over and over again, not, get the deal done and then have them frustrated the entire time the deal is operating. So, but it took us putting our own skin in the game and investing in our own properties and really getting intimate with those numbers on our own dime before we started raising private money. So we had a really clear, solid expectation of what those costs were going to be.
Yeah, no, that's the fact that you guys have done it before and aren't just kind of capital raisers that come into a hot space and just do something. You actually the experience of running your own thing, like you've done it before with your own money, and now you're allowing other people to come in. I think that's really powerful. That's really really powerful. And look, I think from I just when I put my investor hat on, like when I look at numbers, I know they're wrong, right? Like your revenue is not going to be exactly what you say. Obviously, your expenses are going to be exactly what you say. But it's like this is based on our experience and what we know, like the best information we can put forward, right? I think that's like that earns a lot of trust from people. It's like, okay, this is a real underwrite. You could be wrong, right? You're like electrical could triple, because of something happened with natural gas prices. I don't know, right? Or something happened, like you hit your roof, and then that's a 50K capex on your roof. Like who knows, right? No one. There are things that you just don't know, but I think people that are transparent, like, they do know. They actually put it on there and like explain why this is and it's reasonable. That's all we can ask for as an investor, right? And just like be transparent. Like if it's bad, tell me. If it's good, tell me. I think it just earns you a lot of repeat business because to your point, right? If you underestimate everything and like those people aren't going to want to do business with you. Like no one's going to reinvest with a GP that like loses money for them or like isn't transparent with them. Like,
Right.
yeah, okay, you tricked me for my 50K, fine, but like you can't build a business that way. Like
Yeah.
just finding new fools every single time, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But anyways, like great work, and I know you guys are out there for deals. So if you're a short-term loan investor that does a ton of time and wants just to invest in cool properties, Sarah and Emily are definitely two people to keep an eye on because they have some really cool stuff in Catskills. Don't buy near my properties, okay? I don't need that. We have enough competition.
No
I don't need
promises.
more. Damn it. Okay. Kind of back to that community point. You've built a community of other investors that you talk a little more about that, and then I know you have a retreat in Zion coming up in May.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you go ahead.
Emily, come on. I keep hearing you, Sarah. I want to hear you.
Yeah. So, well, the retreat that we're planning, so we launched retreats officially last year. If you guys have been watching us for a little while, you've seen us do like boats and helicopters and things like that at these graduations, and we just always left these events feeling the best we've ever felt, the most inspired we've ever felt. We get the best feedback from everybody, and that was always just people who had gone through our mentorship, which is so great to continue building those connections with them. But there are certain people that are at different journeys where maybe the mentorship doesn't make sense, but they need the network and they need the connection. And so we decided to launch retreats officially last year. And so this year we are hosting two. Our spring retreat is at Auto Camp Zion, and
Oh,
it's
two
we
retreats. Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Oh,
So
okay.
we
I didn't know.
officially are partnering with Auto Camp. So they'll be at Auto Camp locations going forward. But the first one's
Oh,
at
cool.
Zion. And we try to combine the concept of wellness and like taking care of yourself and adventure and travel with entrepreneurship and short-term rentals. So a lot of the sessions and the education portions of it are centered around short-term rentals, but there are some that are just entrepreneurship based in
Mhm.
general because we all need the support. And I mean, there's something as simple as like something that seems as simple as me is to like starting an LLC, finding a CPA, things like that. But it's like everybody's at a different point, and so we want to be able to offer all of that education around entrepreneurship while also having the short-term rental focus. And so we'll have sessions around those types of events, but then a lot of time that I put into the schedule is just for networking alone. There's a lot of gaps between a lot of the educational sessions and things like that because I truly think, or we truly believe, that the connections that you make with people are going to help you build more
Yeah.
businesses and build better businesses. There have been people that have left these that have started businesses together, started investing together. And so that's our goal with the retreats. So the Zion one, there'll be like hiking and yoga involved, but also talking about pricing and revenue management and safety. And we have a CPA coming to talk to you about all the like not so fun portions of it as well.
Oh, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are you saying taxes aren't fun? I like that stuff.
It's tax season right now, and I'm not having fun.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that stuff, you might like
But
design. I don't love design, but I love taxes.
that's
You
true. It's not
we need
my
a safe,
wheelhouse.
we need a safe space for the tax lovers.
That's true.
So true.
That's true. Yeah. So I'm glad that there's
All
people out there
joking.
that love that.
All joking aside, just like how many people, and then how many people do you have space for? What are you doing?
Yeah, so we currently have space for 70 people. If we get to the point
Okay.
where we have 70 people and that we have like a swarm of people that really want to come, we can talk to AutoCamp about potentially expanding our group block if they still have room available, but we're set at 70 right now. And
Okay.
it's May 18th through the 21st. So we'll be there at a good time, but hopefully it's not like too hot for our hike. So we try to time
Yeah.
that kind of stuff as well.
Zion's beautiful. You couldn't have picked a better location. I went there pre-COVID, pre-baby, and it was like one of the most awesome experiences. So that's a great. If you've never been to Zion National Park, it's like hiking in the Narrows and all that. It's a pretty amazing experience, and May is a good time. It's like not as hot there, um, so that's a great time to go. So for folks that should definitely check out the Carwells and go on the retreat. That's something that I think is really powerful. Like we've done a good job of it just because we've had two kids in the last 3 years. We launched our program, but we want to do more of the in person as well. And just hearing you say that, just the connections and you feeling energized after leaving that's really powerful. I think that's a great way to connect with people in your community. So that's well, tell us about your second one. I don't even know you had a second one. What's the second one? Or
Yeah,
what's the
so
fall or winter one?
we haven't officially launched the fall one yet, but it is going to be
Ooh, see,
in
preview.
yes,
All right,
preview,
you heard it
yes.
here first on
Um,
It's Here Like the Best.
It is going to be in the Northeast and during peak color season is what we're planning on
Ooh,
that one. So we had our one last fall in Ohio, of all places. But if you know Rose from your family's place, she has beautiful properties there. And so we had our first one there. And we just love the fall and we want people to be able to experience like beautiful colors. And so, yeah, it'll be in the Northeast.
that'd be cool. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, and it is absolutely beautiful, which is why we bought there. That's great. That's great. I love that. And then maybe Sarah, to you, as you're thinking about growing, you know, growing your portfolio, right? Growing, working with investors. Just, and I know before we came on, you were saying that you have more investors and you have deals. Maybe just kind of walk us through that process. Like, how do you think about the deal, right? Like what gives you confidence to bring this in front of your trusted community and they're like, hey, I think this is a deal that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like really not all deals make sense, especially a deal where there's a manager in the middle, right? Where folks that don't know this, like you buy a deal, right? Buy a property, call it like $500,000, and then you got to put money into it to make it nice. You got to furnish it. That's generally another six-figure number, and then you have to have someone manage that too. Like that's separate from buying and positioning that property. And a property manager generally 20-25% of the gross revenue. So that they do take a pretty big chunk off the top. And then there's all the things that are involved with that. So, you need a lot of meat on the bone for these deals to work, which is again why I was surprised when I was looking through your number. Oh, actually, wow, there actually is quite a bit of meat here because you can actually these numbers actually make sense. So, without staying too much of your thunder, like maybe talk through that process as you look for your next deal or you position your next deal.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head that like there aren't a ton of super viable deals that have enough meat on the bones for you to split the pie several ways. And so that's why we end up in situations where we have more investors than we have deals, because we're just, we're not willing to walk into a deal that has any potential of being a huge headache on the back end. That's too high risk. Like that, we make enough money to live, and these projects that we're moving forward on have to have at least some sort of a lifestyle component to it for it to make sense for us to spend our time doing it. And so we're really focusing on properties that are within 3 hours of a big metroplex. That's why you see us in upstate New York. We get a lot of the traffic from Boston and New York City, and then middle of nowhere Michigan, we get a ton of traffic from Chicago and Detroit. And so we're really focused on, properties that have irreplaceable amenities, whether it be waterfront or some, unique feature of the property that somebody else couldn't just build in. And then we always preface each deal with the investors that we work with that we are always going to be spending more money upfront on the project than probably anyone else will. But it's because we're focused on the back end side of the business and wanting to maximize the revenue potential of that property. And sometimes we just don't know exactly what that revenue potential is because we know we're coming into a market where we will be the best operator. We will beat all of the numbers that are currently showing on AirDNA. And so we just know that we're playing in that upside potential, and we have to have investors that are willing to spend more money than maybe it makes sense on the front end to cater to that back end upside potential that we want to be paying attention to. So we have to find investors that understand that vision, that can understand that proof of concept that we've already shown in all of our other properties where we've spent more of our own money on things that maybe didn't perfectly pencil, but we saw the potential in. And so
Yeah.
we're looking for a specific property with a specific investor in a specific area, and those properties go quick because we have yet to have a property that's not way over the profitability that we're projecting the property to make out the gate. So investors see that and they're like, wait a minute, something here is working and we don't understand the ins and outs of it, but we know they do, so let's get on a project with them.
That's right. That's a great way to frame there aren't that many of these, and there aren't that many those kind of investors. So lining that all up, and you guys have your GP is actually really big, right? It's like you and Emily, and I know there's some other people involved but that, you're right. Like you've built a great team, and the projects have to make sense where everyone is happy and aligned for the long term because like these things aren't, I think one thing people should realize is like these aren't like traditional syndications where you're looking at a multifamily, you buy it, you reposition it, or you refi, you're out 5 years. Like, or correct me if I'm wrong, but my presumption is you're holding it for the long term, right? These are trophy properties are going to cash over a long period of time. You're doing bonus depreciation on those. It doesn't make sense to do bonus depreciation on something that you're going to hold for 3 years. Like, just doesn't make sense because you have to pay the depreciation recapture down the line. So you want to hold these properties, you want to invest in them, you want to build a moat around those properties where, hey, like I, I built something here that someone else can't replicate. And I'm going to overspend on that because that next person will have to do something even better. And it'll probably be uneconomical for them to do that. So, capital is a form of a competitive moat. And to see you guys do that, in these properties, I think is pretty very interesting. I saw that. I was like, oh, that for me, like, collect us, like, okay, well, I get what they're doing. And yeah, no, I excited to see the next one that you guys have in the hopper. I'm sure your team's working hard to find your next one. So like I appreciate the time, appreciate the time today, and I know we're running a little bit over. So I'm going to ask my traditional closing question to you, and I'm going to start because I gave the hard one to Emily first. So I'm going to give it to Sarah now. Business is a team sport, as we talked about a lot here today. Besides Emily, what's one of the kindest things that someone has done for you throughout this journey that they didn't have to at the time and it's made such a difference for you over the last 5 years?
Ooh, wow. There's so many examples. Okay, the one, wow, okay, I don't even know how to narrow it down to one. It's like, do I want to call out Maddie or do I want to call out Fede for their help? I'll call out Maddie.
I'm giving Fede.
A lot both.
Okay, you'll do Fede, I'll do Maddie. So, Maddie in particular, when we were still working for the fund, I didn't know how to analyze a deal. I didn't know how to underwrite properly. And I also didn't really know how to negotiate a position in a partnership deal well. And at that point in time, we just didn't have nearly the network that we have now. And Maddie was the first person to come alongside both Emily and I and just be like, she gave us, free time. She'd hop on Zooms with us. She taught us how to underwrite a deal from her perspective. She was honest with us and that we had negotiated a deal with the fund that was not what we had deserved. We needed to go and renegotiate that. And so it was just her honesty and transparency with absolutely no reward on the back end for her that she could see at that point in time that really changed our lives. Like, we flipped our business upside down after a few conversations with Maddie because it just pulled back the curtain on what we were doing wrong that we didn't know we were doing wrong. And it's what you don't know that always gets you. And so to have that moment with Maddie, it just created the kind of loyalty that Emily and I have together towards Maddie, where now we work with her in a much larger capacity. But it's because she was extremely kind and generous to us and transparent with us right out the gate. And that kind of honesty right away with no reward on the back end that she could see was just showed me her integrity right out the gate. And so that's just been a relationship that I will carry till the end of time, strictly out of that first interaction of her just being kind for no reason.
Shout out to Maddie. She's the one that kind of introduced us to the broker that we use for our property there, and the way she carries herself. Agree. I didn't know that, so that's really cool that she did that. And yeah, like just the unknown, like the unknown unknowns. Sometimes like kill. It's like what you don't think. What you don't know is like the thing that's going to get you. And the bigger network you have of people around you, is going to. You're never going to know all the unknown unknowns, but the bigger group you have around you that you're more transparent on, like they'll shine a light on just like all these blind spots that you have. It's going to make you that much better of an investor and entrepreneur, and honestly just kind of happier because like it's a happy relationship, right? Because like it's like both done well and support each other and a good friend that you'll carry to the end of time. Like that's cool. It's like have a friend and make money. Like who doesn't want that?
Yeah, win-win.
Right. Win-win. Emily?
Yeah, so I dibs Fede because there's so many incredible things that you can say about Federico. But I will just say the time and care that he puts into us at the beginning of this whole journey, we continuously like told him no, that we weren't working with him. Like there was already a management company that we consistently worked with, and he was so patient. And then when we needed him, he was right there. And he takes so much time. There's so many intricacies behind managing your property, and you can do it forever, but like there's things that you're just never going to know, and he's willing to sit down and walk through that with you. And so he built trust with us, and now we're friends and we're together all the time. But then we also feel comfortable enough with him to refer other people to him, and he takes just as much care with those people as he does with us, which he cares more about our properties than I think we do some days of the week, because we have a million other things going on. But knowing that I can just like send somebody to him and I don't have to worry about it, I think it's just the kindest thing. And like he holds up the reputation that we talk about all the time because he cares. And so I think that that's just the smallest thing I can say about Fede, because there's so many good things. But
Yeah.
yeah,
He cares, and he's like wicked smart too.
so
Everybody,
smart.
he was on a podcast. I think we published an episode. It was like 40, 47 or 48. Please listen to that if you have a chance. He's one of the smartest property managers I've met. Highest integrity. Like he met when we closed on the house in Catskills. Him and his wife came up, met with us and chatted. Took us out to dinner. Which like it was actually like didn't have to do it. And it was just like a really nice gesture, which really I think said a lot about someone's character. Ended up working with his wife on Kara on branding, so that's really cool that she helped us with the branding for the property and for our media business now too. So yeah, like just relationships and just like find yourself good people. Yeah, it's like honestly, just like find some good people and like just be generous. And it almost always comes back to you, and it really almost does. And yeah, no, just thanks so much for sharing today. I think it was just this is not like numbers and like tactics. It's just like mindset, right? Like be a good person, find good people, like have a vision of what you want to do, and have some resiliency. That's one part of culture now. It's like people are like always want to preserve optionality. I want to do everything, but like if you always choose everything, you do nothing because everything's open. You just like bounce around. It's like you design on one thing and just like go for it and do it. And that counting, I think, is a big part of doing success. Your success, my success, and hopefully for you listening, your future success as well. Sarah, Emily, thank you so much for me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having me.
having us.
I'm sorry, the last part I did forget to ask this question. What's the best place for people to find you if they want to reach out to you about deals or the retreat? What's the best place to reach out?
You can DM us on Instagram. Sarah is the most active there. You'll find me in emails, Sarah on Instagram, and then our website, thecarwells.space, has all of the information for the retreat.
Okay, perfect. So the carrolls.space, and I will link to your Instagram profile. So folks, make sure to give them a follow and DM Sarah and Emily for any questions. I'm sure they'll respond to you. Thank again, guys. Thank you so much, Ryan. I know you guys are busy. I really appreciate you carving out time today to come on the show.
Anytime. It was a pleasure.
Perfect. Okay, let's stop here. Give it a second to upload. Let's make sure.